Oh, sorry, just sanitizing my hands. So the purpose of today's video is to check out two different types of AIO water coolers, as you can see by the title down below. One is my existing Floe Riing 240 from Thermaltake, and you can go and check out the review we did of that some time ago up there. The other is a Corsair AIO cooler that I received as an RMA to one that I bought about 5 years ago. Now this one is already 2 years old, but this is a new one they've sent me. It's the Corsair H75, as you can see there, and it's got the newer cover on the pump, as it's got the white lit Corsair logo there as well. About 5 years ago they didn't do that, it was completely different. But this is a dual fan 120 rad on it, and we're going to compare the two and see the difference right after this. If you're looking for custom cables for your next build, To The Wire Mods has got your back. Their bread and butter is custom sleeve extension cable sets or fully modular replacement cables for any brand of power supply on the market. Cable sets using custom sizes or bend measurements can also be supplied. They use the highest grade copper wire covered in high quality paracord using a heat shrinkless method for that super clean look your build deserves. To grab your perfect custom sleeved, modular or extension cable set, check out To The Wire Mods using the link in the video description below. So the first thing we need to do is test the currently fitted Thermaltake Floe Riing 240 and see what kind of temperatures we get after about half an hour's worth of Prime 95. So let's go ahead and run that now and see where the temperatures lie. Now Prime 95 has been around for a long time. When I used to work in a computer shop, we used to stress test the PCs before they went out. If they failed in any way, then we would rebuild them if necessary, or replace parts if needed. So the CPU that I've got in here, as you may have seen from previous videos, is the AMD Ryzen 3800X. That's an 8-core 16-thread CPU. So we're going to let this run for about half an hour and see where the temperatures lie. So before we start, the current idle temperature of the CPUs are between sort of 35°C and about 37. It looks like it's holding at 35 now, 34, so it's fluctuating around 34 to sort of 37. That's going to go up considerably when we hit this with a load, so let's run the stress test now and see how high we can get the temps. And there we go. I don't know if you can hear the fans ramp up, but that's already shot up to about 75, 76 on pretty much all the cores. Now if you're interested in what speed the fans are running at, let's load up the Thermaltake control panel there. So that control panel is called the TT RGB Plus software, and if we move over to that option there, you can see these two fans here are for the cooler. They are the ones up there. They are running at about 1500 RPM, just over. One's running at 1550, the other one's running at 1510, weirdly. They're both set to PWM and the highest performance mode that is available. So let's leave that and come back in a mo. So after about a minute or so, maybe less than a minute, we can see there the temps have shot up now to about 81°C, and that's still within the limit for this particular CPU. So let's see how much higher that can go. So before you ask if the fan speed can go any higher than that, it can't. That is the maximum that these fans will spin at. The fans on the Corsair H75 spin up to 1900 RPM, but to make the test as fair as we possibly can, given how we're testing this, we are going to limit the fan speed on the Corsair H75 to around the 1500 RPM mark as well. So the temperature is still increasing. We're now up to 83. So the test has actually been running now for over an hour instead of the half an hour that I was going to run it for. And one thing that has happened is the temperature has gone down. Now the reason for that is the CPU temperature. If we look at Ryzen Master, we can see that the core speed has actually gone down from our original speed, which is about 4.3. So it's gone down about 300 megahertz to compensate for the heating. So we've kind of reached an equilibrium in that it's not going to get any hotter and it's not going to throttle the CPU anymore. So we're around about 4 gig, just over 4 gig, and we're hovering at about 81°C now. So there's no point in running this test any further, so we're going to swap over to the Corsair H75 and see how that one does. So as I'm unboxing the Corsair H75, I can see some design changes already. Obviously we've already talked about the LED on the CPU block there. The actual radiator itself has changed in design. It's very, very square on the edges. I don't think it's an Acertec design. It doesn't look like an Acertec one anyway. I will confirm and put that down in the description down below if it is. Whether that has any bearing on how this performs compared to the Thermaltake Floe Riing is, well, we'll find out soon enough, I guess. Obviously it has thermal paste on the bottom there. We're going to stick with the default condition that it comes in as that one was as well. That was using the existing thermal paste on that CPU block for the Thermaltake cooler there as well. We're going to do the same for this one and keep that on. It's got a copper base on that, as does the Thermaltake one as well. Obviously it comes with 2 fans as well, because that was the whole point in doing this particular video. It comes with the SP120s. These are Corsair owned fans, so we'll see how that performs. And what I might also do if I get time later on as well is actually swap the fans over and see what difference that makes on the different radiators there. So basically Thermaltake fans on a Corsair radiator and Corsair fans on a Thermaltake radiator. And obviously you get a bag full of different fittings for different types of CPU sockets there. Let's get cracking. So rather than the whole block falling down, I like to just loosen them with the screwdriver first and then do the rest by hand, because we don't want to damage any of the components inside. At the same time, we are removing the block from here. Pretty sure these come all the way off, if I remember rightly. Yep, there's one. Hopefully that shouldn't block any of the airflow from that. Shouldn't make any difference to what we're testing today anyway. Right, let's remove this fan here. So this particular case, the X71, if you check out our review up in the corner, you'll see it comes with this particular fan on the back. I haven't put an RGB fan on the back here, simply because, well, it's doing a really good job, actually. And there's enough RGB elsewhere in the system anyway. I would suggest you use, and don't drop any screws, I would suggest you use a smaller screwdriver. This one is quite big. It's a multi-tool one, so if I unscrew the end on this thing, you'll see here actually there's some missing. Oh no, there isn't any missing. Oh man, there may be now. You get these different ends on it, so it's quite useful. You just basically pull it off and put on the end you want. And let's find that spring. Okay, and he's back in the room. Now the party piece with this one is, and I haven't had to use it yet on a computer, this comes off and it's flexible, and you can still, if you need to get into a tight space, like I say, I haven't needed to do that yet, but I guess actually if you need to unscrew a fan and you couldn't get the whole length of the screwdriver itself in there, you could kind of do that, and you can just turn it like that and do it like that. Well, I haven't needed to do that, but it's there should I need to use it. So if you're not sure which direction the air flows through a fan, you can tell normally by the way the fan is designed, in that the actual bracket that holds the motor for the fan, this bit air passes through that side, doesn't pull it in that way, so the air comes through that way into this side with the nice sticker on it that you get on most fans. And also, if you forget that, there should be on most fans an arrow to show you the direction of the fan itself and the airflow path. So as I've just said, air comes in that way and goes out the back side there, and that is the direction of the arrow there, and the fan will spin in that direction, and that's what that arrow does. I think we're gonna temporarily mount this one. Let's do, I don't think it will fit up that way. Yeah, it might fit up that way, yeah. Oh, maybe not. No, it's not going to fit this way because we've got our existing AIO cooler there, and I want to keep that one in place. I don't want to remove that one. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to flip it around that way, have the cables come in that direction, and hopefully I can still fit the fans in there without too much trouble. I think there's enough room in there to keep the fan in there as well. So as we are going to mount it that way, the fan goes that direction. So you see the sticker on this side, the inside of the case. So we're going to screw that on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think I've missed one. There is 8 in there. So there we go. Let's open those. And it comes with washers as well. Nice. Oh, okay. So the way you fit these is you put the washer on the end of the screw like that. And if you like to come over here, pop the screw into the hole so it goes through both holes of the fan, not like I've just done there. Make sure it goes through. It only pops through a little bit and only slightly grabs onto that, so it doesn't need to be a whole load. You don't need to put a stupidly long screw directly into that because you will potentially damage your radiator, and you don't want to do that. So you can see there's all the screws are in. Let's line 2 of them up and get those screwed in on this side. So we're going to leave that there, get the other fan, and do the same again on the other side. And on the back side of the fan, you need to make sure that it's in the same direction as the fan we've just put on. So because we are flipped over, as you can see there, the fan is with the picture or the sticker on the actual hub of the fan. You need to make sure that your fan or the other fan is the same orientation, or your fans will be pushing up against each other, and that won't be good for thermals. End up overheating the CPU. Might be a good thing to test actually, just to see what effect that actually does have. So some of the other bits you're going to need to mount this particular cooler onto your AM4 socket is this bracket here. Now it uses the original retention brackets, which I'm going to need to put back on the motherboard because the Thermaltake cooler doesn't use these at all. So we're going to need to put these back on, and then this will fix over it. But you'll see that as I'm fitting it in a minute. So let's get on with that. Why won't these go on? Oh, it's just I'm not holding it on properly. Okay, this is it. Right. Okay. Right, so what I'm going to have to do, because epic failure, is hold that in, hold that there like that, and then line it up from behind without looking at it. And there we go. Those are the retaining brackets on there, the original ones that come with the motherboard. So we're going to wipe the paste off the CPU. This gunky stuff here, which helps transfer the heat from the CPU to the cooler. And then we're going to mount the H75 to that. So let's get that clean, shall we? Okay, so now we move on to this retaining clip. So we need to remove the current one on the H75, twist the bracket and pull that off. Put this one on, line up the holes there and twist. And there we go. So now we have to put the screws into these holes here, which will then tighten over there, over the clips on the retaining brackets on the motherboard. Now these are a little bit weird, I've not seen these before. These will screw in from the underside like this, and then we use these to go over the top there like so, and then that will clip onto these, and then we tighten it down and hopefully it gives you a nice snug fit. Now this one comes with paste already, as I've already described earlier in the video. We're not going to change anything, we're going to keep it as stock as possible. We're not overclocking anything, so I don't need to change put high quality paste on. The one that comes with it is actually more than adequate. So we put the clips on there. We're now going to carefully mount this on the CPU. Now we should have put this on first, and you may have noticed a mistake that I did earlier in the video, in that I put both fans on already. Normally you would put the screws on the outside of the case to hold the fan against the radiator there, and then that would have held it in place and I wouldn't be having to faff around holding this while I'm trying to mount the CPU block. When you put yours on, if you're going to put an AIO cooler of any type on the back, make sure you screw the fan in and then mount it to the radiator, so that this thing can be put into position, and then you don't have to worry about holding both like I am now. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take my own advice and actually put the fan on. So now we've got the fan off, we need to mount the fan and the radiator to the back of the case. So we're going to just put one screw in there for the moment and hold that into position. Carefully line up your AIO cooler and then proceed to screw the screw in a little bit just to get that cooler secure, so you can carry on and do the other screws. So as you can see, we've mounted the cooler on there. We've got push-pull configuration with the fans there, and let's get these cables out of the way. We've still got one tied up in there. I must remember to take that out. In fact, I'll do that now. So let's mount the CPU cooler. Now with these things, you don't want to tighten these up too much. You can see there that I've not got that all the way tightened up. There's a gap here. Now the reason for that is so that you can clip those over these parts here, and then it just makes it a bit easier to put on. But one thing I have found that's quite annoying when I tested it a second ago is these twist around. So you might want to kind of just put your hand on the top there. So hook the top one in first. I found this is probably the easiest solution. Obviously, if you've got a better way, then just do it your way. Tighten it up a little bit so it doesn't come off too much. And then we get the bottom one on now. Hopefully I've not done that one up too much. Oh, I think we're on. There we go, I think we're on. So now it's just a matter of screwing these up. So let's use the screwdriver for that. There we go, that is on. So now it's just a matter of plugging the cooler in, the power for the light or the pump. I'm not entirely sure, that might be the pump and the light actually. I don't think this one changes color. I think it's just pure white. This is for pump sensing, so you can see how fast the pump's going. So we're gonna, because I haven't got a spare SATA port in this area here, and there's quite a short cable on it actually to reach somewhere down there. It's a bit disappointing to see. I'm going to plug it straight into my CD drive because it's literally at the top there, so we can just do that for testing purposes. Now this one here, this single cable on this 3-pin connection here, I believe is for PWM or speed sensing control, so that monitoring software can see how fast the pump is going. So we're going to put that one on the AIO pump cable there, port there. Now it's time to plug the fans in. So I think on this one, the best way to do this would be to try and use the CPU, proper CPU fan headers on the motherboard for this, so that we can have some sort of control over the fan speed. Because don't forget that we want to limit the RPM on these particular fans to 1500 to make it as apples to apples as we possibly can with the Thermaltake fans, because they only go up to 1500 RPM. I do have plans for this AIO cooler, which will be coming up in a later video. So we're just going to bung the cables down there. It's to do with the graphics card. So make of that what you will. Okay, I think we're ready to power this thing on. And there we go, the white Corsair LEDs are on. So as you can see there, everything's fitted in now, and I have made one adjustment to it in that I did incorrectly plug in the fans into separate fan headers on the motherboard. Unfortunately, this particular motherboard doesn't allow me to control some of the fan headers on the board. It just so happens that the Corsair H75 AIO cooler comes with a splitter, so we can take it off the single CPU fan header there, which is plenty strong enough to power 2 fans for our scenario. So I've used their cable, and I'm now controlling the software with the Asus Dual Intelligent Processor 5 software, and I've already configured the fans to not go over 1500 RPM. Unfortunately, due to the way their software works, in the time that I had, when it gets to about, is it 74? I think it goes up to full speed, which is nearly 2000, just under 2000 RPM. There's not much I can do about that. Hopefully the temperatures stay low enough that it doesn't need to ramp up that high. So anyway, as we can see there, the idle temp is showing about 31, 32 degrees Celsius there, and that's absolutely fine. You can see that here that is the histogram of the CPU speed, and we've got temperature down the bottom there, which isn't moving at the minute for some weird reason. So let's go ahead and run Prime 95 for about 10-15 minutes and see if we can hurt this CPU. Again, we're going to run with the small FFT test there, level 1, level 2, level 3 caches, maximum power, heat and CPU stress. So let's go ahead and run that on all 16 cores, or 8 cores, 16 threads. So let's do that. And off it goes. Look at all those. Each one of those is a core or a thread. If you're Intel, you call it a thread. I'm still calling it a thread because that's what I want to call it. We can see already the CPU temp has gone up to 51, I believe, and I'll overlay this on this video as well. You can see the temperature, I'm sure I took some video of this before as well, was actually higher with the Thermaltake cooler after just starting the test. So we're going to leave this for, I know we left the last test over an hour, but you actually only need to leave it for about 10-15 minutes for the temperature to equalize in the AIO cooler there. So we're going to leave it for about 10-15 minutes running this test, and we'll come back in a minute. So it's been about 45 minutes now since we've started this test, and surprisingly the 120 2-fan H75 from Corsair is doing a really good job. It's actually about 5 degrees lower temps than the Thermaltake Floe Riing 240 is. And as you can see here, we've had consistent 77 degrees. The maximum temperature we got on the previous test, and I'll put it up on the screen as well, was about 81 or 82. What we're seeing here, we haven't had it over 77. In fact, 77 is the highest I've seen it with this cooler in. So yes, it does make a difference on what cooler you have. Now, there are lots of variables that could make this test different. I mean, we've kept the side panel open on the case as we did with the Floe Riing 240 up there. We could have put the side panel on, but we wanted to make it as you know, apples to apples as we possibly could, so we've left that off for this particular test. We have of course got the cooler in a different position. Whether it would make any difference mounting the cooler on the top of the case, I don't know. Maybe that's another test for another video. We also said earlier on in the video that we were going to potentially try those fans there, the Floe Riing 240 fans, they're Ring Plus fans, on the Corsair H75, and the Corsair fans on the Floe Riing 240 radiator there. We don't have time to do that in this video, but I'm going to do that in a second video. We're going to do a part 2 of this test somewhere down the line. As we're all stuck at home in a minute, I can do some more videos on my rig. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to save that for another video. But as you can see there, look, maximum 77. If I move the mouse down a little bit, you can see there 77, 72. Yeah, most of it's pretty consistent. The CPU speed does go up and down like it did on the previous test. It's at 4.2-ish on all cores actually, by looking at this bit here. So that's pretty consistent as well. I mean, the temperatures dropped down a little bit there. The lowest we've seen the CPU speed go is just over 4 gig on all cores, on all 8 cores, which is impressive. I think it was similar to the previous test. If I can find an overlay, I'll put it on the video on screen now. But I think we've proven that different fans, different radiators from different manufacturers, they're not all the same. As I said before, I'm not convinced, I'm not even sure that this was an Acertech design, because it looks totally different. I may be wrong. Put your comments down below in the video description if you know for sure whether this is an Acertech design. I don't know particularly what the pump is. Again, I think the pump in this one is D5, but don't quote me on that. It might be their own proprietary, how do you say that word? Proprietary pump in each one of these coolers. If I can find out what they are, I'll put it down in the video description down below. There we have it, guys. That's pretty much it for this video. Now, if you like this kind of content, then do give this video a thumbs up to show your support in this time of need, and do subscribe if you like our content. Click that red subscribe button down below, or on your phone or whatever device you're watching me on right now. Hopefully it's not too big, because, well, look at this. That aside, we're going to be doing more content, as I've already just said, on my personal rig. But if you do follow our channel, you know that I've been talking about modding this, spraying it in the color theme here, the black and the orange there. We've got the custom cables from, I'll put a link in the description down below where we got those as well. It's very late and I'm very tired. That's going to happen at some point while we're all stuck at home. So I'm going to make that come to life. We're going to actually get this done, providing I can get the spray and all the parts for it. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this video. Like, subscribe and all that jazz. And everyone, I'll see you in the next one.